The big thing I want to unpack with you here today is this concept of AI and technology within restoration. What happens to the people, like the water mitigation technician, project manager, salesperson, general manager? Like, if AI is going to replace everybody, then what happens? I believe we're at this transition from the Blockbuster of restoration to the Netflix of restoration. And I believe that the future restoration companies, there's a world where you'll be able to have 10 field technicians for every one office staff. EBITDA margins are going to go through the roof because there's going to be this new breed of restoration company that's going to build a tech-enabled restoration company. AI-powered, handling a lot of the broccoli that employees don't want to do.
In the long-term future, I think if you don't do that, you don't exist as an organization. I think this becomes table stakes over time. And I think back to like farming, right? If you're still there with a pick and a shovel and you're not using a machine, you're not competitive, you don't have a business model in today's society. I think the same will be played out with tech-enabled anything.
Welcome everybody to the Albi After Hours podcast, where we talk about propelling the restoration industry forward. I'm your host, Alex Duta, and today I'm excited to be in the beautiful Windy City with Mr. Nick D'Urbano from Distance AI. Dude, thanks so much for joining us here.
Pleasure for being here. Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah. So where's home for you again? Toronto?
Montreal.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't tell people in Toronto that you're from Montreal and vice versa. Big hockey rivalry.
I see. And originally you're Italian?
Italian, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, I want to dive in. I think the big thing I want to unpack with you here today is this concept of AI and technology within restoration, and like what happens to the people, like the water mitigation technician, project manager, salesperson, general manager. Like, if AI is going to replace everybody, then what happens? But I don't want to dive into that just yet, so make sure you guys stay till the end where we're going to unpack that. At first, I want to set the stage. I don't know if you heard my tech-enabled restoration thesis before. I want to see what you think of it. So for those of you listening, I believe we're at this transition from the Blockbuster of restoration to the Netflix of restoration. And I believe that the future restoration companies, there's a world where you'll be able to have 10 field technicians for every one office staff. EBITDA margins are going to go through the roof because there's going to be this new breed of restoration company that's going to build a tech-enabled restoration company. AI-powered, handling a lot of the broccoli that employees don't want to do. Do you agree with that? Do you see that in the future?
Yeah, 100%. I actually think you're obviously ahead of the curve doing something that no one is doing today. I think in the future, and I don't mean like in the next few years, but in the long-term future, I think if you don't do that, you don't exist as an organization. I think this becomes table stakes over time, right? And I think back to like farming, right? If you're still there with a pick and a shovel and you're not using a machine, you're not competitive, you don't have a business model in today's society. I think the same will be played out with tech-enabled anything, tech-enabled restoration, plumbing, like it doesn't really matter. So you're at the cutting edge, the bleeding edge of this, and building the playbook for all the organizations that are going to follow suit. So I think it's incredibly important.
Got it. Do you think that future restoration companies will be valued higher that are tech-enabled versus those that aren't?
Absolutely. I mean, valuations are a function of free cash flow and a function of efficiency, right? And so by virtue of you being more efficient, you will get better multiples, or you'll get better free cash flow, and then as a result of that, better EBITDA, and you'll be able to get a better multiple on your business. So, people often will ask about the cons of AI or the cons of technology, but the real value here is it makes things more efficient. And when it makes things more efficient, you can pay yourself more money, you can pay your employees more money. Look at the employees at Google. Healthcare, gyms, etc. And why is that? It's because it's an incredibly profitable business, because they're putting technology in their business. I used to, I'm going to date myself, back when I started my career, people would ask, who would use Google? What organization would use Gmail and Google Docs, etc.? And I said, Google uses Google. Right, and that's a publicly traded company, and like the efficiency works, and over time everyone uses it, right? So those efficiencies pay dividends over time.
Yeah, I was talking to my co-founder. All these things like Amazon, what's it called, AWS, right, and even Azure. Initially, they built the data centers to power. Because I'm like, how did Amazon get from selling e-commerce stuff to having hosting? And they're like, well, they built the data centers to handle their own hosting, and then eventually just licensed it out to everybody else.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So where does this passion come from? Like, tell me more about your story, where you
Yeah.
started. You clearly know something about valuing businesses. You clearly know about tech. You know something about building businesses.
Yeah.
Where'd you cut your teeth?
So I started my career in investment banking. So
Okay.
I worked at Deloitte, focused on buy and sell side M&A. So for
Okay.
folks who don't know what that means, I effectively helped organizations raise capital, sell their business, or they were getting acquired, do the due diligence on the other side. And so I spent a lot of time doing transactions in the technology space and in the retail space. Those were kind of the specialties for Deloitte in Montreal, at least at the time. Then I left and I joined a venture capital firm. I said, hey, I'm going to now take that experience and I'm going to go invest instead of advise.
Okay.
So that was fun.
Yep.
And then at some point, I used to joke around with my friends. I'm saying, I'm going to go get a real job now and actually do the work, right? Because at this point, I had just advised or invested. I hadn't actually rolled up my sleeves. And so I spent the better part of a decade in New York building and scaling retail and technology businesses.
Nice.
And then after you get to a certain point, you say, okay, well, now I've built them. Can I start them, right? Can I start and achieve some of that escape velocity? And spent another 10 years building and scaling e-com businesses and retail businesses and some software businesses, in Montreal. And basically, we had some successes there, and we raised capital, sold a bunch of businesses, probably did about $250 million in revenue over a few different businesses that we started, raised about $300 million in capital across the full spectrum of companies that I was involved in. And then in 2021, we started what is now Distance. And so, company number 3 or 4, depending on where you start counting and how you count.
And what does Distance do?
So Distance is an AI sales platform for the trades. Now, about 75% of our customers are in the restoration space. So you could say it's an AI sales platform for restorers. But effectively, we help our customers capture and convert leads and build better sales pipelines with AI.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How did you stumble into restoration? Like e-commerce, 9-digit e-commerce to restoration.
How does that happen? Well, I like to joke around that no one or very few people jump into restoration. They discover restoration.
Yep.
You start a carpet cleaning business, you start a plumbing company, and you're like, oh wow, this restoration thing's pretty good.
Yep.
So we kind of follow that same pattern. We actually started building a technology tool that was built for service businesses, right? It didn't really matter whether you were in restoration, plumbing, or tiling. It didn't matter, right? We were building the widgets and the tools that would help you engage with your customers, build loyalty. The problem was there was no AI at the time, all right? This is before ChatGPT, before some of the LLMs became publicly available.
So it was like automated workflows kind of thing?
Yeah, so we're doing automated workflows, we're building the tooling, but the customer has to manage the tool. And so once AI started to percolate in those very early days, I like to joke around that we were around before AI became cool. I said, oh, but this is a great opportunity to actually take the biggest pain point for our customers, which is I don't have time to do this. Well, now we could build software that does the work for you. And that was the impetus to kind of move into more agentic workflows and agentic models. And what we're doing today. But in terms of restoration, that was a very serendipitous path. We moved from services and just started narrowing down where we think there could be the most impact from this type of technology. So if you think of retail back in like the 2010s era, very antiquated, very old school business, not using technology. So you can have a really big impact when you come in and say, hey, look at these tools, look what it can accomplish. And you have the D2C movement, and you have all of these companies raising capital, new companies getting started. And so we were at the beginning of that phase. And now we look at restoration and home service businesses as being at a very similar point in time as retail was back in the 2010s.
Interesting.
And so we're excited to build tools and technologies that similarly propel this industry forward as well, which I know is something that you talk about a lot with with
we're
Albi.
definitely very passionate about that here at Albi. And it's very interesting to see that, the trades overall have been left behind compared to retail and tech and such. And then within the trades, it feels like restoration's almost like the last man standing. Like,
absolutely.
Service Titan's done wonders, and Rilla and all of those in the plumbing and HVAC space. But when it comes to restoration, we're still on, some solutions are still on-prem. Like you have to get a server in a closet. It's bananas.
No, it's wild.
So what does Distance specifically do? Like if I bought Distance tomorrow, what would it do?
So we have a suite of products. Our most used product in the restoration space is probably our AI voice product.
Got it.
So think of think of your daily business operations. The phone rings,
Yeah.
you might miss a call because it rings too much. You might have an okay after-hour service provider. You might have demand surges where all of a sudden there's a ton of calls coming in and you miss a lot of leads. You don't even qualify the leads.
Yep.
Well, what we do is we'll plug in, we'll train the AI on your business. We'll plug it in to answer the phone and intercept those calls once it rings more than 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, whatever the case may be. So now instead of missing a call, right, where you're converting 0 or 5% of those conversations, now you're converting 30, 40, 50%.
Smart.
Right? So we're able to claw back opportunities. And in restoration, it's so impactful because each contract is worth tens of thousands of dollars potentially.
Yep,
so it doesn't
each
take
lead costs so much.
Exactly. So it doesn't take much for us to start really moving the revenue needle for our clients. You just look at like the past 6 months and all the missed calls. And now we could say, all right, well, take that same percentage. Now you're missing none. Right? What's the value there? How much money are we bringing back into your coffers as a result of just like tightening the funnel? So that's one part of what we do. But we also work with clients to, stand up websites that help them convert better in terms of traffic coming in. Help them rank in ChatGPT search results. We have SMS products so that, when people are coming in inbound, they can text and get a quote via SMS. I mean, if your house is on fire or flooded, you're probably not going to use that.
Anybody,
right? But maybe if you have a mold issue or something, or if you're in the cleaning space or carpet cleaning, which is adjacent to restoration, that might be a useful lever to acquire customers with. So all of these tools, all of these strategies can be implemented into your business to help you drive more sales.
Got it. Do you have a fake number that we can call? Just do a demo of it or not?
I don't have a fake number right now, but I can certainly share one with
that'd be cool. Like if you want to send Joe, if you want to send Joe a recording or something.
I'll send Joe a recording. And actually, we have a whole. We have a whole on our site. I don't know if it's live yet, but we have a number you can go play with. So you can go in and call and play around with it. And, so we can leave that in the link or something after this.
I remember I was calling an HVAC company and I needed, my furnace went out in the middle of the night and I spoke to this awesome lady, Janelle, and she answered everything and created the appointment and everything. And then it took me like 9 minutes into the conversation to realize that something was a little weird. And I asked Janelle, are you an AI bot? And she said yes. I was like, oh. So like it's gotten to the point where like it's getting pretty good.
It's getting
pretty
learning
good from itself.
It's getting really, really good, and ultimately, it does the job really well. Whether it's answering the phones because a customer called, we have another client who's using us specifically for 33-mile leads. Right? So hey, I don't want to get up. I like to joke around that we save marriages, right? I don't want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to take this call. Well, now you don't have to, right? Now the AI can cover for you while you sleep.
Super smart.
Yeah.
So where are we going in the future? What's that going to look like? I mean, AI is part of it, but like, do you see robots running around? Do you see us restoring water damage on Mars? Like, let's dream a little bit. What does that look like?
No,
near term, 5 to 10 years.
Okay, so I wouldn't be surprised. I think robots are a really, really interesting use case. It's not something that we're heavily involved in, but if you follow that, I do think there's a world where you have like a ride along with a robot and who's helping you take pictures and scan the premise and things of that nature. So I certainly think we're not far from that. Like, are we at the, when are we going to get to the like Jetson era world where a robot will go and like knock on a door? I think we're still pretty far removed. I think in the medium term, like the next 5 years, I think what you can expect is just AI taking a bigger workload off of your plate so that your team can spend time doing things that are more valuable.
Absolutely.
Right. I remember a time where laptops, and I'm dating myself again here, but like laptops weren't really a thing. Everyone didn't have a laptop. You didn't bring work home with you. You brought a big batch of paper home at the end of the day. You filed it. You went to bed. You were done. That was actually very inefficient, right? There was a lot of data entry, and I don't think anyone would look back on that time and say we lost something really special because John in accounting now presses a couple of buttons and all this information is uploaded. So now John can spend his time being more strategic. He can spend his time adding more value to the customer equation. I don't need 6 Johns. There's actually a really beautiful picture. I don't know. I think it was from the New Yorker. And it showed a bunch of folks in an architecture studio in New York drafting on a drafting table. And it showed hundreds of them in a huge architectural office with rulers and sketches and drawing. And all of that was replaced with AutoCAD, with software. And did that kill the architecture industry? Of course not. People just did different things. And so I think you're just going to see a shift in where people spend their time.
Absolutely.
And, there's going to be a new normal.
Yeah.
And that new normal will look a little different, obviously, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, and life just gets a heck of a lot easier. Like you said, like imagine us farming with shovels versus now we farm with machinery. Like you still kind of need a human to come up with the thought and the idea of, hey, we should farm and, create that idea and bring it into life.
Absolutely.
But robots and machinery and stuff could help. And yeah, I mean, I can't wait for the Tesla humanoid to come out, right? Like it could lift 50 pounds. It could walk like a human. It's got LiDAR and cameras on it.
Are you guys going to be testing that?
Yeah, I'm going to buy it. Yeah. I mean, it's 20 grand. And think about it. You're not going to replace the water mitigation technician per se. Like you still need a human. And I think people would be a little creeped out if a robot came in and did water mitigation. Plus, like, I don't think all the intricacies of water mitigation could be done. But like, if you think about like a basic laborer, like day number one, you've never done water mitigation before. You get paired up as a technician with a crew chief, and your job is to what? Well, take equipment from the truck and bring it downstairs, and take garbage from the basement and bring it up to the truck. Maybe you put some stuff in bags. Maybe you take some pictures, right? Yeah. So it's like, now we don't necessarily need, two crew, a crew chief and a technician. We could have a crew chief and a robot. And the number one issue we find with crew chiefs is they don't like using technology like Albi and stuff, so they're not entering in their notes, they're not taking the photos and stuff. Automate that, But the robot loves that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think we're right there. I know some people are skeptical about robotics, but I think we're so close. It's the concept of, before robotics, I don't think had the AI. So they weren't applicable to dynamic environments like restoration, right? Like robots work very well in a factory right now, before AI, because it was very like, bring sheet in, cut sheet, bring sheet in, cut sheet. Whereas in environments like restoration, you need to be on your feet, you need to think. Artificial intelligence has brought us to that.
You need that Boston Dynamic robot that's doing flips.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're on the same page and I think aligned there. But okay, so what happens to the humans? Let's just fast forward. Now we got robots doing stuff. We've got AI answering services answering the phones. And let's say the humans that don't want to do something better. Like let's say Sally, who's a receptionist and all she knows is answer phones, and now her service is no longer needed.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's certainly going to be a shift in where and how people use this technology. I think today, most people are using it as a backup system to their phone line. Yep. Because what are these calls fundamentally? If you take a step back and say, am I doing the same thing over and over? Am I saying the same thing over and over? Is this something I can replicate with very low risk? And if the answer is yes, that's probably something you should automate or consider automating. Would I have a robot go and build relationships with my commercial clients? Of course not, right? There's a certain level of humanity that needs to be ingested into a business in order for it to be sustainable. So Sally, as an example, well, if she's just answering the phone, maybe that's a poor allocation of capital, right? Now we're having expensive human labor doing a very repetitive job that can be automated for much less. Absolutely. So how can we reallocate Sally's role so it adds more value? There's things that she should be doing, right? There are follow-ups with customers, right? And there are tactical things as well to add the human touch, right? I don't know many restoration companies today that, for instance, after a job is done, have a handwritten note, buy a box of chocolate, put a bouquet of flowers on the table, welcome back home, whatever the case may be. These things, a robot's not going to go out and do all these things, automatically buy flowers, automatically write us, these are fundamentally human things. Like, I think we can actually be more human as a result of taking the technology to free up time to do things that are more impactful, that create better outcomes, that create better experiences, that drive better results. So, I would say, hey, Sally, great news. You don't have to be saying the same thing 100 times a day. We're going to adjust your role, and we're going to make sure that you're adding as much value in this organization as possible. And if you're doing that correctly over time, what ends up happening is you can start paying your customer, your workforce more, getting better talent, retaining them better, et cetera. It all works together. And this is obviously a very optimistic way of looking at it. But I think this is fundamentally what has happened over the past 20 years since the internet became, part of our day-to-day lives. I'm not talking about the social part. I'm talking about the business part. I'm talking about the efficiencies, 100%. Right? Obviously, we can sit and nitpick around. Is social media good or bad? But that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's happened is intelligence is a commodity now. But even back in time, at my PowerPoint this morning, I talked about Henry Ford, and he said, like, why would I clutter my brain with all this useless knowledge? Like, I think there was a point in time where, humans were doing what was not maybe the most human thing, which is hoarding knowledge. Yeah. And there was this period in time where those who had knowledge were seen superior than the humans that didn't have knowledge for whatever shape. But now, knowledge is becoming the commodity. Yeah. And also mundane, repetitive tasks that are not really humane. Like, humans don't like, doing the same thing over and over again. Those are all becoming a commodity, which forces us to do what we do best, which is be more human. Yeah, absolutely. And those are the skills that I think the next generation needs to go all in on. And as leaders, we need to equip our employees to be more empathetic, to communicate 100%. Better, to connect on a deeper level with other humans, because that's the skill trait that's going to be needed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's end it on this, from a philosophical perspective. Yeah. Have you heard of the idea of like a spiritual awakening maybe coming, or
of how we spend our time?
Correct.
And I mean, look, if you think of how we work today, right? It's actually anchored in a very kind of recent paradigm, right? If you rewind the clock hundreds of years, we didn't work the same way. The way that we work and the way that we structure society evolves with the with political systems. It evolves with technology. It evolves with capital. And I certainly think there's going to be a shift over time. And this is not like in the next 2 years,
of course.
But over the course of our lifetime, I certainly think there's going to be some pretty big changes around how we think about work. And I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting to challenge. I think, was it Norway just recently came out with a mandated 4-day work week. Wow. And reduced hours per day. So there's already some countries that are playing around with this concept of, all right, what does society look like if we work less? Yeah. What is society? That doesn't mean everyone has to work less. Yep. If you're ambitious and you want to go out there, you still have that opportunity. Yep. But as a default, the concept of working 40 hours a week, Monday to Friday, is a very arbitrary paradigm that we imposed on ourselves. It's not like we were born in this world.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, you know what, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, that's a default. Yep. Now, even a Monday to Sunday is a paradigm that we've also constructed, right? So all of this is malleable, is fungible. And so I'm kind of excited about that experience. As an entrepreneur, I think there's a lot of experimentation and optimization that you can do as an organization to create, compelling work environments. Could be a huge competitive advantage.
100%. Yeah, the thing that popped up here is like, I don't know if you would relate to this or not, but I don't work because I have to work. I'm blessed that I work because I want to work. And as entrepreneurs, we get that privileged, and we're blessed and highly favored. But what if the entire humanity could shift the paradigm to where you didn't work because you had to work? Right. Society was self-sufficient. It was society's, supercharged by AI. Right. And you're coming to work because you want to work. Yeah. You don't have to be at this organization. You're there because you believe in this organization. Because at the end of the day, as humans, we also have this purpose and this longing and this mission. You can't just have people sitting on a beach in Mexico all the time not doing anything,
for sure.
Right?
I mean, philosophically, I think a lot of people derive their meaning through their work.
100%.
I mean, that's actually a very religious concept that has permeated through society.
Absolutely.
So, no, I completely agree with you. And ultimately, if technology frees us from the constraints of doing things we don't want to do, ultimately everyone has agency. Everyone can choose to work more or work less. I think the biggest philosophical point that's going to come out of all of this is, what does that structure look like, and how do we shift to that structure? Ultimately, if you don't need to work, well, who's paying the bills? How does money flow? How does it get distributed? And there are also folks and organizations doing tests on that. Like, what happens if I just give everyone $10,000 a year to live, and costs are reduced? That might not seem like a lot of money, right? But what ends up happening? And I don't think the jury's out on that yet. I think there's still a lot of experiments being run.
Interesting.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Get the robots to do all the work that the humans are doing and get them to start trading money and creating this economy, and then they would then maintain their fellow humans.
Absolutely. That may be. Hey, maybe.
Bum,
maybe.
bum, bum. But anyway, all right, we went out very broad here.
Yeah, that's good.
So bring it back to like now in restoration.
Yeah.
Anything that we didn't cover under the distance vein, under what Albi plus distance could maybe look like?
Yeah, well, I think organizations like Albi that have APIs that make it really easy for data to move from one system to another is another example of the efficacy, right? So if you close your eyes and say, all right, well, in that example where Sally is no longer answering the phone, well, what can we accomplish? Well, we can qualify a lead. We can automatically transfer it to dispatch if it is something that is urgent that requires immediate attention. Great. That's already a workflow that we've now managed to capture. What happens afterwards? Well, we got to take some notes, right? We got to capture the information, the customer details, etc. Where do we put those notes? Do we give it back to Sally to input it into the system? No, that's like back to my accounting example of just like inserting information. That's a waste of time. We have the fields, you have the fields, we can just pump them directly into your system appropriately. We can also shoot a text message to the dispatch to make sure they have eyes on it, to make sure they can call the person back, whatever the case may be, right? So how we move data, how we capture information, where we pipe it to is all part of the workflow. It's not just answering the phone. It's who do we transfer it to, who do we notify, what systems do we ping or inform of, with the information, and how do we create an end-to-end, workflow that saves people time, saves people money, and makes the organization more efficient.
So, and maybe you don't want to answer this question because I think obviously there's multiple other software solutions that you as Distance could align with, but do you find it challenging to work with closed off software solutions that like Distance can't plug information into?
Look,
or is that not really important?
That is incredibly important. We work with a lot of franchise organizations, and sometimes they use a system that doesn't even allow us to integrate.
Because they're very closed off.
They're very closed off, so that makes it really challenging. So in those scenarios, customers will still use the tool and will take that like to the 1 yard line, but then they still have to take it
but
and
all
input
that potential is just
but all of that is an easy solve, right? It's an easy solve, but you need an organization that has the right philosophy around technology, and unfortunately not everyone has it. And so I think the more open some of these tools are, the better the outcomes. And we see that time and time again across the board.
Yeah, that's been a challenge to get restorers to understand, right? So obviously Albi's full open API, and as not everything is fully opened up just because our developers haven't gotten to it, but we'll always open it up kind of thing. But like, let's just say 90% of the actions are there. And we'll try to sell that to a restorer, maybe using Dash or PSA or like one of these closed off solutions. And I don't know if they just don't understand the value of what does it mean to be open API and how it interfaces. So why is that important?
I mean, it's important that tools communicate with each other, right? And when you try to create a closed off environment where you try to own the entire process and you're very gated, that leads to very poor pieces of software. That creates inefficiencies, and you're forcing your customer to use parts of your product that they'd rather switch to something else. And like this is a dynamic that's at play not just in restoration, but you could see this with Apple, right? In the headlines, Apple versus Google, and Apple's notoriously closed. Ish, like they do open it a little bit, but it is more closed. And you have Google's strategy, which is completely open. And over time, the open systems tend to win more than the closed systems. 100%. I think innovation happens faster. Improvements happen faster when you let your guard down. I mean, even Elon Musk with Tesla. Opened up the patents to what he was doing to his competitors because he understood that making some of this information and making these tools available and accessible to other even competitors just rises the industry forward.
100%.
So it is a philosophical. It is a philosophical thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're coming up here on time, and I really appreciate you pouring into our community here. Is there anything I should have asked that I didn't ask?
No, I think we covered everything. Awesome. Yeah, it was pretty wide-ranging conversation here.
Going from the future to the current to philosophy to your backstory, which is really cool, by the
Thanks,
way.
man. Appreciate
So,
it.
where can somebody find you if they want to learn more about Distance?
Yeah,
or you?
so you can go to distance.so, so
Okay.
the word distance.so to learn a little bit more. You can book a meeting with someone on our team to
Nice.
get a demo or learn how this can impact your business.
Awesome.
That's probably the best way to find us.
Great.
Yeah.
And for everybody who's an Albi customer, we're actually doing an AI summit in December. And Nick said, AI restoration, count
I'm
me
in.
in.
I'm
Cool,
there.
man. This is great.
Awesome, dude.
Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks.